share the screen, right? So how do I share the screen? Great. So you should be able to see the screen.
Yes, yeah.
And I should be able to share some last minute thoughts I had. So basically the questions sometimes when I get assignments from students, what happens is that students do not tell explicitly what they will teach in any lesson, right? So they'll say, oh, we'll do this and we will do that. Well, that's really lovely, but why are you doing this? So, and I think that that purpose is not actually coming through the overview as well. So I came up with a few examples. I didn't do these beautiful drawings. It's PowerPoint that actually organized my bullet points into these lovely pictures, which make things, a bit more enhanced. So some of my students, or of our students, are saying things like, well, I will teach people an emotional analysis of text. This is wrong. You do not teach emotional analysis of text. What you do, you use the tool of emotional analysis to teach something else, right? So I am fully aware that only in science people think of frameworks as tools, but literacy, the pedagogy of literacy is also a science in a sense, and what we need to do is treat ideas as tools, not as answers to everything, right? They're just tools. So reading for emotion or any other things are just tools that help you achieve a learning outcome, right? A learning outcome. So you use the reading for emotion model, if you want to use it, to draw out of students what they already know, right? So what does it evoke in you? And how do you know it? I mean, the discussion would be amazing because they said this. What else? What about, where else have you seen it? What makes you so sure? Where else have you seen it? And how would you say it? And how would you say it differently? And why would you say it differently? Where have you seen it? Or where did you say it? And come up, ask them to tell you. So they will now create this associative learning, associations, right? And that's what you want. You're the boss, so you in a sense know more what else is in the text. So you can actually, if you want to introduce punctuation and so on, so how did you know he said that, not that? How were the things opposed in the text? Or maybe they put semicolon somewhere, or maybe they put some other punctuation to oppose things. So I'll go back into it a little bit today, but you are the boss and you can say, you can provoke more discussion, but that's what you want. Through questions, you want to provoke discussion about the text, but not about what the text is, but what do children see in this text, and why do they see it, and why not something else, and where have they seen it, right? All of this. So learning outcomes. So emotion is not the learning outcome. It's just a tool for achieving learning outcomes. So what would be a learning outcomes? And I have suggested these things before in our collaborative sessions and to students in my personal exchanges with them. So for example, what makes an argument convincing, or a text convincing, right? What makes it convincing? And you maybe as an undergraduate student, you'd say, well, I haven't done English text analysis, like I haven't done bachelor in literacy or bachelor in English, so I have maybe no expertise. True, but you can use reading for emotions as a tool for drawing this knowledge out of yourself and out of students and finding out about what makes an argument convincing. What do people use? What tools they use? Or persuasive. So what I did a little bit so for example, I thought to myself, what would be ads for drink milk, right? And then I thought to myself, So what does it look like? Kind of like watery, right? Like milk. Sort of like when you look at all of them, they're kind of watery, like sort of non-aggressive, all right. But when you look at posters about don't bully, well, it just looks completely different. And just an analysis of how of a sensation that it generates in you, one message versus the other. One is just peaceful blue, you could go past it and never notice it. It's kind of like, a clean your teeth thing, right?
It's very subtle.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
Yeah. And then you can go, okay, so what's the focus of this one? What's the focus? Oh, the red color, like this is the focus, like must be something important here in this, right? So you can do it even with 5-year-olds. Must be something important. Let's find those letters on the clipboard, or whatever it is called, look, a keyboard, right? I forgot English. Ever since I've come back to Australia, I forgot English because I was too long overseas. But so let's try to find the letters that are here in red. Obviously they are focus, right? The focus here. So let's find them on the keyboard and let's make the avatar read it. So text to speech and speech to text thing. It's gonna take you an hour or two. Great. We have time. The more we hurry through things, the more we lose everything, right? So setting the focus. Where's the disturbance here in the be healthy, drink milk thing here? Hardly. I mean, you barely. Disturbance might be that red color, like sort of like telling you, well, if you don't, something is gonna happen to you. But you can have a discussion. Is maybe the glass, does it look disturbing? Does the blue look? What does the blue represent? Ocean, sky. So these are peaceful colors. They're good colors. They're not disturbance color. The red is a disturbance color, which what may it suggest? That if you don't drink milk, something bad is gonna happen to you, right? So involve yourself in it. Do not wait for a linguist to solve you the problem, how to take children through the reading of this poster. Engage yourself, use your imagination. Once you're a parent, that's what you do 100% of the time, right? Because otherwise, how are you going to raise your kid and transmit all the values and everything? Do the same in classroom. And I can assure you that the linguists don't have tools. Linguists describe the language. Linguists don't teach. Linguists are not interested in pedagogy. Pedagogy is a completely different field. So you might use for tools into linguistics, but you don't teach linguistics. That's extremely important, that differentiation. But we kind of lose because the elite intellectuals want to lead everything. They want to say that they just provide everything for you. Like without them, you have no life. This is not true. You have to be a pedagogue, not a linguist. All right. So this is a very nice analysis, but that's what I mean by compare and contrast. Oh my God, a little bit of red in drink milk, but how much red is done in don't bully? Like a lot, right? So I can't remember whether I had any other cars. So for example, if we do an emotional analysis of powerful cars, so setting focus. So what do we have in focus? That's kind of like drama, some kind of drama. So what's the disturbance? Oh my God, the ship is gonna sink, right? Who are the dialogic partners here, right? Think, imagination. I'll tell you, I still have to learn to work with my model, even though my PhD student had pretty good success with it in Indonesia. We are still learning to use the model. Like even if you learned grammar, it still will take time to learn how to use the particular grammar to teach or to do something. So it's a tool that one has to learn to use. So dialogic partners. So what could it be here? I was thinking here. So it's a ship, it's the car. What else? It's a storm, it's the sea. They all here, the participants in the story, right? All of that. So what's the development? Well, we don't really know, but we see that the car is not drowning. So maybe the car is trying to push the ship. That's the development. What's the resolution?
Well, the car is saving the day. Like the car is the answer to your problem. That's what they're trying to tell you.
Resolution. And the moral? Buy the damn car.
Solve your problems. That's right.
It will solve all your problems of this sort of like, you know, you feel comfortable with it, you feel reliant on it, you know, it's a reliable car, it's a strong car, something you need, you know, like it can carry, even it can pull out the sea, a ship out of the thing. So that's the analysis where you can use those emotional prompts to help you with your imagination when you analyze a poster. Without those emotional prompts, what do you have here? Oh, that's an ad for a car. How do you know? Well, we don't really know. Well, I guess it is because it's pulling the thing. And what does it say? The car is strong. Oh, good. But what few emotional things you're not teaching vocabulary, you're not teaching emotional association, you're not teaching critical assessment of the whole thing, right? And the discussion is short, but when you have 6 pointers from setting the focus to the moral of a story, you can actually have a 1 hour discussion and compare with drink milk, right? Story, sorry. I just found an article by one of my colleagues here was quoting a model. So I just was looking today who was quoting my reading for emotion model in citations, and I found one of my colleagues. So so that's why it is a tool to draw out information from students, to focus them on that one thing. What's the focus here? What do you see? What do you see the most here? Oh my God, the car dragging something. Yeah. You know, you can talk about the colors, you can talk about the emotion here, you can compare it with something else, like this one, you know, with the elephant or something. Up to you. But the message is again the same. The moral is the same. This car will solve your problems, right? It's a powerful car, get that car. But the emotional pointers enable you to actually create a rich discussion, rich story, and points of focus for discussion, for compare contrast with the milk or with the bully. Even as dramatic as the ad is with that car and the ship, it is nowhere near as bad looking as this don't bully, right? There's no redness here. It's more like storm, problem, like, you know, you're facing the fury of nature, right? And all these words will come out of you as you teach, and it will enrich the vocabulary you're thinking about how to analyze things. So this is how to use the reading for emotion in a way which is imaginative. So what makes an argument convincing and persuasive? So what was so convincing and persuasive here? You know, the whole message, you know, you're fighting the forces of nature and you win with this car, right? So what made it persuasive? So much strength here, but even a boat like this won't drown. I don't know. Look, I am limited, and I'm a very much factual person, right? But I know all my friends and a lot of people are very creative. You will come up with stories with children, what made it advertise, or maybe what the author of this poster wanted to make it convincing. But is it? Let's have a look at another ad. Is this one maybe convincing more about power? No? Is this the car you really need to solve your problems? Is it powerful? How can you tell? Right? Is this one powerful? If you wanted to present a car that is powerful, where is the drama? You know, where is the drama that can actually tell the story about the capacity of this car? So, and in that way, you can see how much and evaluate with children what had to happen in the poster to actually reveal the capacity of the car. So, and then you can actually translate this later on in lessons that are no longer for this particular assignment, but how will we create a story about it? But using also the emotional tools, and, you know, how would you set the focus? You know, on a clear day, all of a sudden something happened, right? And on a clear day, something happened, right? So on a clear day, setting the focus, and then disturbance, something happened, right? And so even within one sentence, you actually have two different stages of the text. On a clear day, it's all very peaceful. Boom, something happened, and it is the disturbance. So
yeah, there's a lot you can take from that exercise, because all of that, what we've discussed or what you have discussed, is none of that is written in the text specifically. That's just all been inferred just from what you know about problems, and you're linking your background knowledge to that picture. But everyone is going to pull out something different from that.
yeah, fantastic, right? Fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. And when you get children from different culture telling you how they feel about it, and where else have they seen things like this done differently or the same way, and so on, you all of a sudden have a really rich conversation. And maybe they will come up with examples. They may even draw it on the whiteboard how it looked, what they remember. Very inclusive. So you're no longer preaching. What you do, you use emotional analysis to draw out of children their knowledge.
You're guiding the students. The students are in control of their learning. You're just guiding. You're guiding them. They're still controlling it. They're still driving what they learn. But you can even do a lesson just on colour. You could just show simply just a colour on the screen and just write down what you think or what you feel or what you know about this colour. What's your experience with this colour?
But you have to know what drives that. What's the learning objective of it? What's the learning? So where it fits. So what makes a text convincing, persuasive? So what words they use, what emotions they devote. You know, like someone just showed me Bernie Sanders' advertisement, just recent advertisement. I don't have it. I watched it, and I obviously having been born in a communist country, I clearly deleted it. But it was like, with me, you're gonna no longer be oppressed. Freedom is following me. All of that stuff I was born with. I heard it so many times that I know how to turn off. You know, so you listen, you do this analysis of the promises, right? Promises, it's just looks great. So you do that. So you use emotional analysis for that. So you can have your lessons around this kind of purpose, what makes an argument or what makes a text convincing, persuasive, and you may use emotional analysis for that purpose. What makes a good ad? We just did that, right? Good or powerful or convincing ad. Powerful narration. Okay, I'll come back to powerful narration, but basically, again, what is a story? And why people write stories, right? Why people write stories? What is a story? So you can arrange your 5 lessons around this purpose for students to learn. So say that maybe they want to create a story for about the school, or about they want to share some experience with maybe children who are in hospital, or maybe with the broader community, or maybe with children from younger classes. They want to create a story for younger people to see how much you can learn as you study. I don't know, things like that. So my students usually in ELA 200 have great imagination in this regard, or maybe go to HK Center and create their own original story. All right, so what makes up a story? What is the story? And why people tell stories? And now you have 5 lessons on reading why people write stories. And when you do emotional analysis of this, people tell a story in order to pass on not just information, have a look, but maybe Wikipedia just passes information, right? But maybe something like personal narrative, it's about morals. It's always about morals, right? So we have children's, so compare nursery rhymes. Do they have morals? They just for the fun of it, right? They just for fun. They exercise your tongue left and right so you can actually pronounce English fast and learn vocabulary. They're just games for children to play. But fables, they usually have a moral, right? So that's a thing that you compare nursery rhyme with a fable. Personal narrative. Now students in ELA 200 come from different levels of education. So some of you will be doing early childhood, but some of you will be doing senior studies. So you can compare a nursery rhyme, fable, and personal narrative. Now again, my PhD students very helpfully gave me access. I mean, I asked them for 30 references on this particular approach to teaching. Doesn't matter what this approach is called. It's called systemic functional linguistics, which is the multiliteracy people's pedagogy to text. So anyway, they sent me this lots of things, among them this book. And in that book, I found two narratives, personal narratives about, forgive me again, I know, you know how, what term did we use when children were taken from parents, Aboriginal children were taken from parents? I always knew, but I've been away from Australia, I forgot. What do we call it?
What, you mean like the stolen generation?
Yeah, stolen generation. Okay, thank you. So these are the texts of children of stolen generation. And look how systemic functional linguistics looks at the text, looks at orientation, record, and then there's a lot of text that's happening here with some things in bold that they want you to see, and then reorientation on the bottom. It's not, in my view, the best way to teach someone how to not only read but then write. Do your orientation now. Well, maybe people can do it, but generate the record, and you just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, right? So it's not very helpful, because if you want to create something, you want help at each step of the way, not just do your record now, and you go like, how? And you go, I have no idea, just do the record. And that's the reason, because I think that the analysis, the structural analysis of text has not progressed. They can't really, in my view, teach, do the genre teaching pedagogy very well. Anyway, they have lots of mistakes there, but this is not the class for dealing with this. This is the class to actually find solutions. So what I did, I compared the three sort of orientations with mine, and do not despair. Obviously, I have more help on the way, more than three, right? You can see a lot of blue here. So I have taken it now here. And what happened when I analyzed this text from the stolen generation, look what happened. You have setting the focus, that's great. And it has never been repeated. I don't know, Leighton, whether you looked at the Kangaroos Story. Did you look at the Kangaroos Story? Or maybe I have actually discussed. Yeah, we've done it.
I think we covered that in one of the earlier collaborative sessions.
Right. And what happened? I said there was a development. There was first a disturbance. Wombat came, complained. Mother helped. That was development. And no, that was so disturbance. Wombat. Something unpredictable. Dialogue. Wombat complains. Development, mother, kangaroo helped. And you thought that the story should finish here, but it went on again and again and again. So the same structure, disturbance, dialogue, development, disturbance, dialogue, was repeated a few times. Why? To show how patient love is. And here, it's very interesting what happened in this narration of this child of a stolen generation. What happened here, similar thing happened, but he only repeated the sequence twice, which is the setting of focus happened. So that wasn't, the third one didn't happen, right? It's only two. Disturbance happened, then dialogue, then development. And I found it very interesting, because the way how the person generates this narrative, it has this repeated sequel, disturbance, dialogue, development, disturbance. But what the second repetition does, it elaborates on the first one. So the first one is almost like a prelude, introduction to the...
A bit of a teaser or a yeah, I know what you're saying. It's telling you what's about to come.
Yes, and look at this, how they actually nicely, if you actually do it. So 1936 it was setting focus, but it was so far back then. I would have been 5. And look at the resolution here on the very bottom. After we went through the story twice, he says, I've since found out, which is, you see how it relates back to the focus? Beautifully. I'm showing you these elements first before I take you through through analysis. So I was 5, and I've since found out, right? So it's really connected to the setting focus. So you see how when you have this resolution and this sort of more sliced story, like more is being shown in the story, it's really helpful to actually analyze the text. Again here, in the first development, he finishes with the word darkness. And in the second development, he goes back to this darkness. I found it very interesting. And what else did I want to show? I think that's all. But let's look at it. So it was 1936. I was 5, right? I would have been 5. What happened? The police came. What emotion is he evoking in you? Oh my God, when you're a child and the police came. I mean, how do you feel? You know, you didn't really have to say much here. That's why the sentence is not elaborated, because that's all you need to say is, you know, we went there and the police came. You know, it is tragic enough without any words to evoke in you empathy. Right? In fact, the more you would decorate it with something, I don't know, you would have to check against another text, but I suggest maybe it would not, it would actually cover up the emotion.
It would
dilute the effect, right? And then dialogue. Now listen, guys, it took me a few seconds to do it yesterday, and I expect that none of my students in the ELA 200 is absolutely fluent in the analysis of text using reading for emotion model. Great, I'm very happy about it. But this is a way that I want to share with my students to see that there are tools. If you think innovatively, there are tools that can help you in both reading and then guiding students to learn to write. And I'm teaching you that. It doesn't matter what I would be teaching you, it would be new in any event. So no blood is lost, right? Because, I mean, it's always new. But so disturbance, the police, dialogue. Look how many people participated in this person's story. So it's the great uncle, it was the police, it was the mothers, it was we. For some reason I didn't mark we. Okay, we. So great. So there's us, there's the Uncle Sid, there's the police, there's mothers, there's children, right? All of that. And then you can analyze the effect that the way he put it has on you, emotional effect, right? What emotional effect it has in you. So it was really nice. We were playing a happy community and it was all good, and all of a sudden we have all of that. So analyze it, how many adjectives, how many adverbs are here. Again, I have a feeling that not many, right? Because it's tragic in itself. So development, well, that's what happened. They took us, you know, that's that. And now, disturbance. My mother had come with us. She had already lost her blah blah daughter down to the children's hospital because she had infantile paralysis, polio, and now there was the prospect of her losing 3 children. So I don't know why I called it disturbance. Actually, I think I misread it. What do you think? My mother had to come with us. Okay, so with 3 cousins, the 6 of us were put on an old truck and taken. Well, my mother had to come with us. She had already lost her oldest daughter. So is this a disturbance, really? Have 3 other children.
I'm just reading it, sorry.
Yeah, so maybe the fact that she was okay, so this is about losing 3 children, right? So that's the point here. My mother had to come with us. She had already lost. So basically here, this is maybe not very well put by the author, by the person who reads it, who wrote it, but Mema, it's kind of the drama of the possibility that she will lose 3 children is not coming through here very clearly. She had already lost her. This is very good, because you can discuss with children, with students, did you really understand that as from here onwards, somewhere there is a danger that she will lose these kids? If she had to come with us, that means the 6 of, so we 3, Essie, Brenda, and me, together with our 3 cousins, the 6 of us were put on an old truck and taken to Udnata, which was 100. Yeah, Udnata, yeah. And then we got there in the darkness. My mother had to come with us. She had already lost blah blah children because she had this paralysis, and there was prospect of losing her 3 other children, right? So that's the danger of it, right? And there was a prospect of okay, and I just want to remove the more it comes to dialogue, the more I want to keep it in the dialogue. So there was the prospect of losing 3 children, so I think that's why I put it in red. I did it last night, so I can't remember, because I've done another text since. So there was a prospect, so disturbance, there was a prospect of losing 3 children, right? Another 3 children, all the children she had, all the children she had. And I would actually put in the dialogue, right? Now so what function does the dialogue play? It tells you who is in the story and how they contribute in order to illustrate the social conflict, because we're all social creatures, so any conflict is always impactful on others, on myself or on others, so on others or on myself in relation to my experiences. So this is the people who created it, but this is the impact here. Remember, she came in a truck. This is how he's trying to remember. This is the internal dialogue. Who can understand it? The trauma of knowing you're going to lose all your children. So he's reflecting here, generating this dialogue on feeling for his mother. We talk about it from the point of view of trauma. But our mother, to understand what she went through, I don't think anyone. So you can see how important it is to have in a story a dialogue. And when I was doing this method with little Thea, who actually wanted just to copy Wikipedia factual story, I said to her, here we have to have a dialogue somewhere in this text. If you don't create, people will not get information. It will be too factual and there will not be any information about it. There will be no perspectives in the story. So she brought in the diary, the sciences, all kinds of things. The diary of the eyewitness of the Vesuvius eruption. She brought up some stories she found on Google about the science of it and so on, some sort of historical evidence. So, these dialogues sections in the story function to enrich it, bring perspectives, your personal perspective, factual perspectives, maybe other people's perspective. That's why dialogue is important, and it is always in a story. And then he moves further and he says, well, it was 1936, we went to the United Aboriginal Mission, we got there in the dark. So the dark gets repeated here. And we didn't see our mother again. In the darkness again. See how this element of darkness comes through. Resolution, I've since, right? So that's a resolution. But what's the moral? He doesn't narrate. In the narration, there is no moral, but it's implied, because that's the function of a personal story. The function of a personal story when you teach reading is for you to now see how from the structure of a story, which is first introducing what it will be about, and then taking you again through the depth of this story. The function of a personal story is for you. It sometimes can be, a person may say a moral, but sometimes when the story is so dramatic as in here, it doesn't have to be there, because the narrative itself says to you the moral. And you can ask children or students, what is the moral? And if they don't know, show them some stories where moral is actually explicated. And now they have to, themselves come up with the moral. I actually, and that's how you teach reading, right? Not by doing what I just did. We were worth nothing. That's implied, right? I gave it to you because you're gonna. This is a shortcut. My job is to teach you. But you with children, you go through the. Where is the moral? Stories have morals. Have a look at some morals. Prepare for your class. Find stories which actually have a moral explicitly stated, and very often they do, right? I don't remember, but the Aesop stories, they definitely, many of them have a moral stated. They proverbs just about, right? If you do this, this will happen to you. So, so you can see when you have this kind of structural analysis of it, then when you later on will teach children how to write, you can say, well, maybe we follow that structure whereby we first signal problem and development and then go deeper into it, right? What was really so disturbing? So how do I reflect on it now? And so what? And resolution, where am I here today? And make the moral either implied, because the story is so powerful. And how do you know it's powerful? By actually analyzing the tools with which this particular author generated the emotional effect. It doesn't mean this author is a Jesus. He or she might have done it well, but could have been done better, right? So some students might find different tools and they may feel that it's better, and we will let them create their story and stumble and win or lose. That's fine. School is a safe environment where failing to create a powerful story while learning to create one is still a learning thing, provided they engage thoughtfully, right? So it's fine. You can give them high distinction just simply for trying and working with tools thoughtfully, right? You fail students who work not thoughtfully. So so I wanted to show you how with this structure and through analysis of emotions, you can actually generate a way more detailed analysis of the text and learning what's happening in the text, and in fact drawing its structure, right? So I don't have setting focus here because it was only once, and I don't have resolution and moral because it's only once, but how the author here played for effect, right? So in this particular narrative, it is just introduction and then going deeper and being self-reflective here as well. So this dialogue introduces the people who partook in the story, but this one is a self-reflection, right? It's very interesting. But in no model that systemic functional linguistics, Hallidayans, Mary Calantzis, or whoever, they construct for students, you'll find the dialogue there. And yet it is so critical to the story. So I didn't really change everything they have. Because there are other models they have, but they just don't have enough in those text structures. And I've only added a few more things. And I think that the things I added really make a difference. This orientation record and reorientation is a different tradition within the same stream of analyzing text. So there was another text here, and just before the class, I did this class. So 5 minutes ago, I finished this, and I did the same. So I will include it on the announcements and in the discussion board on assignment 2. But we have here again disturbance, dialogue, development, and again disturbance, dialogue, development. I found it extraordinary. I was born in Cape Byron. Now we know where this person is. At the time I was taken, the family comprised mom. I would have put comma here at the time, but now there's a tendency to be a little bit more American, and they don't put commas anywhere. So at the time I was taken, the family comprised mom, my sister, and my 2 brothers, and of course there was my grandmother, blah, 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 dialogue. I recall, so I don't know, you can think about it. Development, that's what happened. And, the circumstances were like this, and then, this happened. And then this happened. And then they took me. and I was taken to this place, and I never saw mom again. Right? So it's pretty much the same structure of the narrative as was in the case here, which I find interesting. So I am not claiming that I generated the best model for working with the text. I'm not claiming anything, but what I am giving our students is a little bit improved, a model which is a little bit improved from what the multiliteracies use, has more detail, therefore allows you to actually generate richer analysis of text, and therefore enables you to help students better in the text construction as they learn how to create text. So reading is one thing, but then when you work with children on helping them to write a text, you don't expect that once you did the reading analysis that they know how to write. What you do, you then teach them how to write by drawing on what they have learned with you as they were learning to read, because you need to create skill transfer. It doesn't happen automatically. You need another project whereby they now, or another focus within your project whereby they now learn how to transfer the skill from reading to writing. So what I find very often happens in schools is we taught you how to read, now assessment, write something. But you didn't teach them how to write, you taught them how to read. That's two different things. And that's I'm saying this because it's extremely important for our future teachers to remember that the two skills are different. You could be very good reader, but you may never be able to write well, because in order to write well, you actually have to engage in that skill of writing and learn how you, and then as you write, you then actually go back to your reading and learn how to read better, so that you can actually transfer more into your writing skill, right? Because as you write, problems emerge, and then you only learn, and only then you learn how little you remember from your reading classes, right? So you go back to reading and you go, oh my God, how did they do it? Oh, I see now, okay? And you apply it to writing. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So basically, you need to have a focus for your 5 lessons, right? And it's not, the focus is not the text, the focus is not emotional analysis or speech to text. The focus is the learning outcome. What learning outcome you want to achieve, and it has to be something like what makes an argument good, what makes a text convincing, what makes a story, why people write stories, what makes a convincing ad, what's moral, why people have morals, right? So you have a learning purpose, learning outcome that now generates reason for you to look for resources and explore those resources, so that children know what these things are, so that they can apply them in their projects, which are bigger than your 5 lessons. I hope this was a little bit clearer today.
No, it was very good, very well discussed, and that it never goes it never goes to waste. It always just puts the learning that we currently have into perspective and just adds to it. It's good.
Yeah. So nobody else came up today on board, or do we have some other students?
There's another Sadi is here.
Oh, good, Sadi, wonderful. So what I might do now is